Hello?
Hey, Josh.
Yeah.
This is Josh from the 1-800-AJJ-HELP podcast. How are you doing today?
I am doing good. Is this some type of multi-level marketing scheme? What is this?
We
What is this?
are
How did you get this number?
we're actually taking surveys today. We wanted to see what kind of hot takes people might have on jiu-jitsu, and I figured you and Jake might have some fun back and forth, so wanted to put you guys on the line here.
Okay, I've got some hot takes saved, so that's just so perfect that you randomly called me.
I know, yeah, it's early in the morning. You got your Red Bull, I see. I think we're ready to go.
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Awesome. So yeah,
Let's kick it off. You got the first one for us?
I got hot take number one. This is not me, just so we're clear. I know this is a different viewership. I do hot takes. They're not from me. These are listeners of my podcast. But hot take number one. Dear parents who run their kids' BJJ Instagram page, your kid sucks and everybody at the gym hates you.
It's a hot take.
Is it though?
Recently I've sponsored some kids, sent them some rash guards, and they're representing the outlier database.
And I'm
So
sure
this
they
is-
have very popular Instagram pages that their, fathers run.
Their editing is top tier.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure that they have a ton of Riz, I'm sure that they have the poppin' Instagram pages. I've seen some pretty amazing kids' Instagram pages, but for every one amazing one that I've seen about 1,000 that are like, oh, David is a future world champion and he's in like the local Naga white belt division getting thrashed. And he's like, yeah, it's just all mental for him now. He's going to really clear things up. His coach is working with him on the closed guard. And you're like, dude, come on. You should just literally be doing anything else right now but obsessing with your child's jujitsu, just anything else. But hot take number one, obviously, I share that opinion. I said that wasn't me, but I wrote that one. What else? What do you guys got? Do you got any hot takes?
I do. I asked my audience as well, and I think this one might piggyback off of yours. I wouldn't say it's as hot of a hot take as yours, but I think it goes kind of hand in hand. Where are we at? We will have a new champion every year. The Gordon/Hoffa Mendes type legacies are no more. So I thought this might go hand in hand with the kids. The kids
Good.
being really good at jiu-jitsu these days.
That's a really good hot take. What do you guys think about that? That's a good. I mean, there's always been. There was Hodger and he was Hodger, and then there was Buchecha and he was Buchecha, and then there was Gordon and he was Gordon. There has always been a king. And you could even argue during the Buchecha reign with how many times João Gabriel got second, that if Buchecha doesn't exist, if Buchecha goes to MMA 6 years earlier, João Gabriel's probably the guy that we all go, oh, this was the guy, and the match that he had with Gordon was the passing of the torch, And so there's always seems to be someone who is significantly better than everybody else, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think? I don't know.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of like golf, the Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson like thing, where like Phil Mickelson was like always second to Tiger Woods and just kind of got overshadowed by him. But if Tiger wasn't in there, he would be like, one of the best of all time. So, the only just with all the instructionals and like everything like that, kids seem to be getting very good. And I think Joseph was the oldest person on the podium at ADCC trials. So like a few years ago, he was the youngest, and now he's the oldest. So it kind of just shows how good these young people are getting. So I agree with you. There always seems to be someone who's just like effortlessly just like, above everyone else. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the next like 10 years of jiu-jitsu plays out. And if it's just like, athletes just kind of go through their peak faster,
And not that everybody's copying Gordon, but like everybody pretty much is copying Gordon. Yeah. Like that's what everybody does. And so he is the top guy. And so, yes, there's a ton of instructional, but how much of that instructional is just trickle down from what he teaches? And then guys are like, okay, now I'm going to try it. Now I'm going to try to have my own system off of it. And so, even though that information is there, and this is just me wondering, I wonder uh, if that matters, if that will make that much of a difference to actually raise all ships, or if there will still just be the one person who is better than everybody else. And then everybody just goes, well, let's copy what they are doing. When Hoffa was winning, everybody's playing 50-50, and it's like all that everybody played. And then like, there came a point where it started to be a specialty again. And it's like, oh, this guy has a really good 50-50. It used to be like, well, that's just part of the game. If you don't have a really good 50-50 guard, someone's going to expose that and you'll lose. And so, the best guys definitely do have a big say on the meta of jiu-jitsu. So yeah, I don't know if that will ever be so helpful for everybody else that we are having new champions year after year.
Yeah. Not to jump in front of you, but I have another Gordon like slander hot take.
Oh yeah,
that might fit in well.
This is perfect. This sounds beautiful.
Gordon moving to heavyweight was mostly so he could face weaker competition.
Ooh, it's an interesting. I would love to hear what Jake Luigi has to say about that one. That one seems. Is it hotter or is it spicier? That one seems spicier,
Subtle difference, but yeah, I agree with you.
That one feels spicy. Like, what do you think? Do you think that your hero, Gordon Ryan, was just dodging people by moving up to heavyweight?
Yeah, I'm gonna apologize. I got a poster on the wall. I gotta apologize.
So cover his face. Yeah. Cover his face while you say it.
Don't listen. Yeah. No, I mean, watching I think it was like 2019 ADCC where Gordon was like lighter and did double gold, like beat Buchecha in the open. That was the most fun to watch Gordon. Mm-hmm. Like he was so good back then. And he moved up in weight and like now it's just much more like stagnant, not as much movement, kind of like a different kind of game. So, I mean, he's still he's still fought Felipe Pena, who's the only person to really beat him. So he hasn't like avoided that competition.
Of course.
So yeah, there's that aspect. And it could just be that his stomach like couldn't handle all of the high intensity at the lower weight division. So then he moved up so he could play a more slow based style game. So it might be more of just like a health based decision as opposed to like I just need to get away from all these like really good competitors because I think he was doing just fine when he was lighter.
Usually one of the smartest health-based decisions is to run another cycle, right? Yeah. Is to maybe if I just gained a little weight off this, usually that's a good health call. But I agree. I think that it's probably even more so he can train consistently. Yeah. Like it's if when you're younger, you can do it better. Like when you're in your early 20s, it's relatively easy to cut weight and compete and not notice huge effects. As you get a little older, you start to go, I can cut the same weight, but it affects me a lot more. Mm-hmm. And then you go to maintain a lower body weight. I have to have sometimes even less muscle, but less body fat, less protection for my body. And then I'm training excessively hard. I'm overtraining on purpose pretty much. And so then you add those things together. And I think for a lot of older athletes, they go, well, if I want to keep competing, I simply need to eat more food. I just need to be able to recover more. And so, I could definitely see that being the reason. I don't think it was, I think you can probably make arguments that the competition is tighter in the lower weight classes. You don't seem to see as much dominance as you do in the heavier weight classes. And from a technical standpoint, probably from average, smaller guys are probably technically better at jiu-jitsu. But who's to say that if Gordon was 170, he wouldn't still just do the exact same stuff? Like why are we splitting hairs at this point? Like, oh, well, he wouldn't have done that if he did do it, dude. He did it relatively easily. We probably could have, put some other parameters against him, he would have probably still done it, you know? And so, yeah, I don't know if I like the hot take, but I don't know if you could say he was dodging at lightweight.
Yeah, agreed.
Do you think the competition is more at those weight categories because there's just more people, like on the bell curve of like a population of people? There's just like more people in those weight categories? Or is it that those weight categories, there's more like available techniques or styles because of all like, you don't see a lot of big guys inverting, for example, or whatnot. Like, is there some combination of that in the reasoning?
Well, I think you have to recognize, like, when you're training early on, if you're smaller, you have to use more technique if you want to win, right? A bigger guy is not required to use the same amount of technique. And so in that sense, it's like, obviously you're going to go with guys that are very technical and you have to learn technique too as a bigger guy. But it's easier to win against most of the guys you train with. You see it happen when guys are the only big guy at their gym and they go compete. And then they're like, man, pulling half guard was a really bad idea. Like, I didn't, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't recognize that it's different up here. And so the game is just so different in those weight classes. And so I would say you tend to see less jujitsu, which means, I mean, we're going for less stuff. There's less stuff available. We have to fight harder for it. There's more athleticism and strength available. And so, I just think that physicality is going to be more beneficial as you get bigger. And that starts to almost outweigh technique at certain points. When that physicality is even or really close, then of course whoever is the better technician is gonna win. But yeah, I think that's my theory for why I've always thought that, because some of the best heavyweights that I have ever known, wrestling and in jujitsu, were wrestled in college at really light weights.
Hmm.
They're heavyweights now because they have a really bad eating disorder and they can't stop eating, and that's why they're 290. But they learned, and you always, oh, he moves like a small guy. Well, like maybe he was just technical like a small guy. And then at that heavier weight class, you even look at Gordon. Gordon was very good at 170 pounds. He was winning EBI at 170. And then he goes up and maybe he keeps that extra ability, that small guy technique that he gets to have. And so I don't know that for sure, but that's what I've always thought.
Interesting. One last follow-up before the next hot take. If someone's listening and they are one of the bigger guys at the gym, or maybe the only big guy at the gym, and they do want to compete, how do you recommend that they change their training to do so?
So I would say most of your training, you could probably 80-90% just stay exactly where you're at, doing exactly what you're doing. But you do need reps that are realistic. And so I would try to go to an open mat with guys that are bigger. There's a group in my area called the Girth Squad, and it's like you have to be 250 or over or something. I don't know. They have a weight limit that you have to make to go to their open mat, but they have like a secret Facebook group and open. I don't get in, but they have this thing, and so because the game is specific to those guys. It's not just it's weird that like we teach jujitsu as though it's the same for everybody, and then like we're like, oh, you're a woman, this will work great for you. I'm a 190-pound guy, and I've never really experienced it as a 110-pound woman, but I assume it should work great for you too, right? And not acknowledging like, hey, there's probably going to be some variation here.
Right. That makes sense. You got the next hot take for us?
Oh, yes, I do. Okay, I like this one. If BJJ actually built any character, the community wouldn't be this insecure,
Okay.
right? Let me ask you guys this. How long have you both been in jiu-jitsu?
Like 10 years now.
10 years? Josh, how about you?
A little over 3.
3 years. Okay. So I'm in at 17. So we really do have like a perfect, we have a
Dispersion.
wide range here. So for you guys, have you noticed that in general, as a whole, not like, I know a bunch of individually amazing jujitsu guys that are really great people, but just individually as a whole, that the per capita of douchebags in jujitsu is about the same or more as in everyday life. Would you agree or disagree?
I would wholeheartedly agree.
Dang, that's a good question. I'm leaning towards I agree, but I'm thinking about if I know any other populations of hobbies I've been a part of with douchebaggery, like
What about
maybe
when you go to Walmart? You know, like the average, give me that average. You know, is the average douchebags at Walmart the same per capita as a typical jiu-jitsu school? Not the jiu-jitsu schools that we train at, because we train at the jiu-jitsu schools, no douchebags. But I'm saying the other ones. You know, the one in your town, Josh, that everyone on your team hates with a burning passion? That school. Tell me the per capita douchebag of that school.
I think this is true, and I my reasoning is because I think if you take the average population and then compare it to the average jiu-jitsu population, the jiu-jitsu population is majority male, and
Mm,
I think males tend to be more douchebaggery than
okay.
females, more disagreeable at least than women, and so I would agree. Yes, I'm taking like a overthinking analytical
That was a
perspective on
solid
this.
take. That was a solid. These are deep questions, man. These are like questions of the universe here. And so yeah, that was a solid take. Yeah, I would say at 17 years of training, it's average. I would say the amount of douchebags that I meet in jiu-jitsu is about the same per capita that I meet in church and that I meet, anywhere else that I go. And it's just like, yeah, this is about the ratio of, and it doesn't like, I don't think it doesn't necessarily like weed out people that way like we act like it does. It's just like, yeah, you couldn't get a black belt and be a bad person, you know?
Right.
It was like, and it's like, I rolled with a guy who's very new. It's like 6 months ago. And we got done rolling. We're just talking. And he goes, man, you must have no ego. What are you talking about? What does that even mean? Like, why would you say that? And he goes, well, like, you're just like, it was just like you beat me up and you just didn't care and you were so nice about it and you were humble about it. I'm like, dude, that's just because you're irrelevant to me. Like, it had nothing to do with it had nothing to do with ego. Like, this is nothing for me. Like, this wasn't an ego thing. It wasn't that hard. Like, you were fighting hard, but I wasn't. I was just here I was at work, bro. This is my job. And so, yeah, I think that the idea that like, oh yeah, if you're a black belt, you must be a great human being. I don't think that doesn't seem to track.
Agreed.
Right. Maybe it's even worse. Like, do you think the douchebags of jujitsu versus the normal human douchebag is the jujitsu douchebag worse?
I think that certain things in life, like money, certain drugs, just certain things, jujitsu can just be amplifiers of who you are, And it's not like, I don't think that it really does. I don't think making money really does truly change the person that you say, oh, this person totally changed. I think that they were probably that person. They just didn't have money. They just didn't have money to be that person at that volume. And I think jujitsu, you give power to somebody and you give like hierarchy power to somebody. When you walk into a gym and there's a black belt, you automatically give that person respect. And when you give somebody that power that should not have that power, it can just be really dangerous, And so you see it everywhere. They tend to abuse that power.
Yeah. I have a hot take that kind of goes along the same lines of giving the wrong people authority.
Mhm.
And this person says, white belts should never bring their attractive wives to the gym. Anyone purple belt or up is waiting around the corner to give her a private lesson.
Yes. Yes. This is just a great life lesson. This is not a hot take in any way. This is an excellent life lesson. Oh my gosh. I mean, I have a million stories just crossed my mind of like where I could even go on that. I like, honestly, when an attractive girl comes into my gym, I'm looking over and my purple belts are high-fiving each other. They're doing cartwheels. These dudes who never train hard are doing live rounds from the feet, blasting each other through the wall. And I'm just like, guys, we just be cool. Be cool for 1 second. And they can't do it. And I feel like I keep a much, much tighter leash on that than most people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that most of the time you go and, I mean, you just like hear story after story. The longer you're in jiu-jitsu, the more you hear this is like, yeah, head coach was banging all the white belts, but then that was also just the trickle down effect of the mentality of the team. It was like, well, if you are high up in jiu-jitsu, then you are better than other people. So you should be allowed to sleep with their wives because you're better than them. You know what I mean? Like they're not even good at jiu-jitsu. And so the idea is you just, dude, you see that so much. There's the joke of like, even Tom Brady lost his wife to a jiu-jitsu coach. Like, think about that, bro. Tom Brady, dude, was making $40 million a year. He was the Super Bowl champ when it happened. What more can you do? One, you should, if you're a young man, you should go, I'm not playing football anymore. I'm just going to learn to teach jiu-jitsu in a very wealthy area. Like that's what I'm going to base my life on, is having a jiu-jitsu school in a very wealthy area. And, but yeah, the idea of like, if Tom Brady's not safe, no white belt is safe. Brother, their mother's milking you in front of your wife. What are we doing here? I don't know. I know that's maybe I'm on a high horse there, but I don't think it's a good idea. I think I think you should send your wife to the female only jiu-jitsu school. Like, we don't allow men here, And so, I wouldn't, I think that's a good one. Solid hot take.
I think that was perfectly said. So I have nothing to add to that.
I've got like a pretty chill one, a pretty chill hot take, not spicy, but interesting thought. And I've heard people debate this, so I'm curious to hear your guys' thought. No music during class is better. Vibes don't make you better at jiu-jitsu.
Mm.
What do you guys think about that?
I know you're a big music guy, aren't you, Josh?
Oh, yeah. I'm a big music guy.
Yeah.
Like time of year, we have different music at the gym, different day of the week. We have different themes for music. Big music guy, but my guys suck. So it's like, what are you going to do? Like, I don't know. Maybe do you guys do music? One, do you do music while, I'm sure you're not drilling anything. I don't want to offend you, but while you guys are ecologicaling, do you guys listen to music or is that not allowed?
The way I've tended to approach it is after I heard your podcast on, like when you've done something a few times, you kind of get the idea. Play some music, have people listen to the music, and then when the song ends, you switch partners. Mm-hmm. And if people keep going, you kind of see like, oh, okay, they're not like as present as they should be, and they're kind of still like thinking a lot about like what they're doing. So I've tended to use it. Yeah, it's very insightful. Yeah.
Cool. I like that. I like that. I'm going to start doing that. That's a good idea.
So the way I've tried to approach it is if I'm teaching something like new and I know like it's a very like cognitive intensive thing, then I won't play any music. But if it's something where it's like, hey, we've done this the past week, it's the warm up, play a little music, kind of get the vibes going. And, I find this to be helpful, like especially when you want, like I think you talked about it in this context where you want people to focus on their breath, like while they're doing it. Mm-hmm. So like listening to the music, focusing on your breath, just kind of like takes your focus out of like what the like task you're doing and makes you more like, am I in control of what I'm doing right now, as opposed to like step 1, step 2, step 3, Mm-hmm. So I've tended to use music in this aspect. And then my school back in California, like anytime it would come time to roll, like lights would go off. He had like a bunch of colored lights and then it would just be like blasting music.
That's
so, like,
awesome.
Vibes were, next level. Cool. And I really enjoyed that. So,
yeah. Whoa. Okay, I've never experienced anything like that, and I hadn't really thought of this too much. I think most of the training during the open rounds has music, but it's at a volume where it's like it feels like background music. Um, I think at 10th Planet South Bay at PJ's during the open rolling part, it is by song, and once the song ends, you just kind of go on to the next round, and their music volume is a little higher. I guess thinking back on it, that was kind of cool, mostly because I like the music that he plays. When I have like some friends over for garage training, I'm always like, I don't know what kind of music to put on. So I just like leave it. And it is a little awkward.
Yeah.
You hear all the breathing
Too
and
much
everything.
breathing.
Yeah.
Too much breathing.
I'm going to put on my eco bro hat here. And let's see. I think this reminds me of like, I think in endurance sports and running and stuff like that, people listen to music because it actually decreases your rated perceived effort on your long run or
That makes
whatever.
sense.
Yeah, and then instead of just like being like a serial killer and just like listening to your feet hit the ground. And then from like a eco bro perspective, I wonder if in competition they're going to be playing music, if you'll want to simulate that environment or whatever to be the same and play similar music. So maybe there's a use for it. I never really thought so much about music and jujitsu. But what are your thoughts, Josh?
I'm pretty, I mean, obviously Jake knew more about my thoughts than I did. I just usually go with, it depends on what we're doing in class. If there's not talking, then I'll have music on. But any type of drilling, any type of game that we're doing, there's some conversation to, if it's new especially. And that's what I always encourage more than anything is like, hey, if you do a rep, you did one rep of something, but you talked to your partner about where your weight was. Oh, no, move it here. That doesn't feel good. Oh, that's what we're supposed to be doing. That makes sense now. And just that little bit of conversation helps both guys. And it's actually how you start to understand jujitsu. You start to put those kind of like, you start to generalize certain thoughts and you start to go, oh, wow, we're digging for this underhook a lot. I should look for this more when I roll. And I think that really separates the move or whatever you're being taught if you actually have a true discussion about it and it actually gives you some understanding. And so then I don't want music playing. And if it is, it's like super light. But yeah, if we're rolling, then always music playing. I'm not trying to hear people's heavy breathing, or worst of all, I'm not trying to hear my own thoughts. You know what I mean? Like I'm not trying to hear, I hear myself enough. I'm trying to like sing 70s pop and beat up this 16-year-old kid I'm going with.
This actually makes me think of, I think there were a couple studies they did on how music affects behavior. One is at a grocery store, or maybe it was like a wine or liquor store. They put like French music versus Spanish music, and they A/B tested it, and people actually bought more French or Spanish wine,
That's
like a subconscious thing. And then they did another one at restaurants, and if you play higher BPM, people eat faster. And so they maybe used it like towards the end of the day, like let's get people out. Or if the restaurant's too like there's too many open tables, hey, let's slow the music down, keep the people in here, make it look busy so people want to come in. I'm wondering if you feel like the type of music you play has an impact on the room and how hard they're rolling or how they're feeling about it all.
I don't know about that, but I know I have my an Amazon music playlist called Head Nod American Jiu-Jitsu. And obviously it starts with Hulk Hogan's theme song. And when you got that playing, the patriotism is through the roof in the building. People are going absolutely wild for that. Everyone's hand is on their heart. Everyone is just pledging allegiance. People are singing the Star Spangled Banner. Like, bro, we're not even to that yet. But yeah, so music at least can affect people in the cult environment for sure.
Right.
You know,
You got that playing with a pretty white belt in the corner. People are just going hard. Yes.
people are willing to die for it.
Okay. Yeah, you got another one?
I got a good one.
Cool.
And this one's mean spirited for sure. Posting a motivational quote on Instagram after losing a match is the softest jujitsu behavior. Just say, I got cooked and move on with your life.
I like it. I don't know if you've seen, there's a girl on Instagram. She's associated with BJJ mental models in some way. I'm not entirely sure, but she
Beatrice Jen
is that her?
does the whiteboard.
Yeah, the whiteboard
Yes.
one. She I forget the like intricacies of it, but she's like how to post after you lose in a like jiu-jitsu competition. And she walked through. It was so funny.
It's like, I got robbed. This is what you do when this is, dude, those are hilarious. There is a meme. It was years ago. Somebody shared it, and it was from the first Lord of the Rings, where Boromir like pulls up his coat and he says, "Brace yourself," whatever, and it says, "Brace yourself." It was during Master Worlds. It was "Brace yourself." I got screwed by the IBJJF poster about to begin, and I share that every year because every single thing, like, I went 1-1, but I'm not going to make an excuse. But here's the thing: the ref didn't give me an advantage that I should have had. And I did lose by 10 points, but mentally it probably would have changed up how I was thinking about the tournament. And really, I do a lot better when I'm up an advantage, even when I'm down on points. And so my coach said that it was a cardio thing. And if the matches were longer and if it was ADCC and it was no-gi, I would have won the match anyway. And so I really didn't lose, but I'm not going to make any excuses. That's most post-tournament things, or like this person, like a motivational quote, like, you never iron sharpens iron, I throw something in there. And don't get me wrong, I've posted that thousands of times, I've lost so many tournaments. You got to post something, right? Like, I can't be honest and just be like, yeah, I got cooked. This guy was way better than me. There was nothing I tried my best, like, it guy beat me down. You just kind of hide it. You keep it to yourself.
Dude, that hot take, it speaks to me because that is exactly something that I would do, is like post a quote after losing in a competition. I'm pretty sure I've done it before.
Oh yeah, I've done it many times. I'll do it again. But I mean, when somebody else does it, I'll make fun of it. Like, I will. I'll think nothing of that.
Cool. Anything else to add on that one?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay, I got one. It kind of goes back to like rolling that I might fit in that context. If your coach rolls when you do and does not watch you roll, he's not coaching you.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I find myself in this position a lot because I want to train, but I'm also the coach. So it's like, yeah.
Well, I would say this is like, no, I don't know of many athletes that have a coach watching every single one of their reps, right? And every single one of their rounds. I think a lot of times it's the general room. And to me, I know for me, I can do more as a coach by getting individual rounds with students than I can doing anything else. When I walk around, yeah, I can watch certain rounds, but like, I'm generally just watching the most interesting. I'm watching the rounds that are entertaining for me, and then honestly, in that environment, the best people are going to get the most attention too. And so like, that's why I love being able to just get a ton of rounds of jiu-jitsu as a coach, because I get to roll with, especially a lot of my lower level guys, get to see what they're doing. Like, oh, you can give them one little thing. And that to me is coaching. You give them one thing to work on for the next 6 weeks. And if they need something, they can come to you. But now they have a focus. And then when they start to fizzle out on that focus, we can obviously find something new. But just getting those reps with those guys is how I feel like I'm able to pay attention to it. And so for me personally, I like that. But I could definitely see, like, if you never rolled with your coach and your coach never watched you train, that wouldn't feel like, I mean, you probably have an instructor, but you probably don't have a coach.
Right. Yeah. I like it. I think that's a good take on it. I agree. I find it more helpful to actually roll with someone. And even if it's like easy for me and you don't respect him at all, you can still help him out a little bit,
Of course. Yeah, of course. I mean, you can teach them how to absorb trash talk really well,
Exactly.
And
it's that mental toughness. So when you don't get the advantage, you're going to be okay.
Exactly.
That's what we're working towards. Yeah. Cool. You got another one? Or you want me to queue up another one?
Go for it. I have to grab my phone because I have like 20 more on my phone. I need to switch from computer to phone. So I was going to let you go with one.
Gotcha.
Before I grab my phone.
Okay. Okay, so I got two that kind of like are opposite of each other. So I thought it was kind of interesting. So this first one says most people releasing instructionals are just looking to make a quick buck off white and blue belts. They're not actually trying to help people get better.
I mean, can't you be doing both? Right? Like that is the you aren't people getting better from some of the instructionals that guys just do to make a quick buck? Isn't the afterthoughts of Gordon Ryan when he's just like really tired and drunk and throwing up, isn't his random thoughts about jujitsu more valuable than most other coaches? And like, could I really be that offended if I could buy that product for $47? It's like, nah, man. It was, I mean, yeah, it was a bit of a money grab, but will I get better at jujitsu from it? Could he have put more into it? I'm sure. But will it actually solve the problem that I have? And so for me, I agree that most instructionals just are terrible. Like they just are not, they're not formulated very well. They're hard to learn from. Um, but I would say most of the time they still end up being worth the money for people because it really just gives them something to focus on. It gives them a lot of information on a topic. And yeah, so if you're just buying them all the time, you're probably not getting to use them. You're probably not implementing them. But like, yeah, I could definitely see that some people have no intention. I've heard that with like some of the filming companies. Like, yeah, guys will show up and then they'll be like, "What should I teach?" And you'll be like, "Oh, well, you should have probably figured that out by now. You've had 20 years of training to decide on that. Like, I would assume that you would know." And I've just always heard that being kind of like a common problem.
Yeah.
There's so many guys that the people that you tend to want to buy courses from generally aren't coaches at all. Like they've never coached anyone. And so you got to hope that their coach was a very, very good coach that actually explained to them how to learn jujitsu and how to understand jujitsu. Because if they're just a good athlete, you're not going to get much out of it. If they're just like showing you the move the way that they were taught it, and then they're like, and if it doesn't work, you just try it harder, like, oh, okay. Like that's probably not going to help you. And so it is tough to find who to buy, I would say, but I think that the idea that like if somebody makes money on something that is inherently evil is just wild because everything that you buy that you need, somebody is making money off and you appreciate that. And you're like, yeah, I need food, like I need to have this. And so yeah, I don't think that like even the worst instructionals now would have been gold 17 years ago when I was starting training.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is kind of like a framework thing that people have around money where like just because someone is rich, they had to do something bad to get
Mhm.
it and like manipulate someone in some sort of way. So yeah, in reality, it should be a win-win for everyone.
Mhm.
Um, this one reminded me, I don't know why my mind went here, but I recently got an email from someone who was canceling from the database and they said that they're
What's their name, Jake? Let's find them. Let's call them out specifically on the podcast.
they were saying they didn't get enough results for a shoulder crunch sumigashi, which is like a technique that, Danaher and Gordon
Yeah.
are like pushing a lot in their instructionals.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, bro, like we have it in there. Like we don't have all the data in the world, but we have like 20,000 sequences and there's 6 of them, So like you could say like, yeah, there's not as many of these as there should be because it's a popular move. Or you could take that to say like, it's not as popular as you think it is.
Mhm.
So I think there is like a lot of marketing behind instructionals for sure. But to say that they're not helpful to people is kind of, a little bit too spicy of a take for me to
Mhm.
follow. Um, but yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I think you're right though that like here's what's frustrating is I get not liking like the language that Danaher uses for his instructionals. I get when people are like, "Oh, it's too, I don't understand it, whatever." But if he didn't use that language, would it be as mystical? Would it be as exciting? Would it be as worth having your notebook out and studying it meticulously and writing down every line that you find interesting. And you go with like, there are these things where these studies where people literally get better results from the same product by paying more money for that product. And that is the only difference, is that they bought that same product for more money. And so they had more perceived value. So they trusted the process more, right? And when you see that with certain guys, you go, okay, well, what is it as instructors that actually separates you from everybody else? And to a point, it is, you kind of have to come out with something unique. You can't come out with something that is the same thing. Imagine if Greg Souders came out as hot with drillers are killers. It rhymes, so it must be true. That would be insane, right? And you're like, that doesn't, that everyone was saying that anyway. That wouldn't have cut through the noise. But the fact that he came out and said drilling doesn't work. He didn't come out and say the ecological approach is the best approach for jiu-jitsu and you should learn this if you really care. He came out with understanding on how to market, and he said drilling doesn't work. And everyone said, no, I'm mad. I'm offended by that. And he said, let me take 100 hours of your time and prove it to you. And then you're like, oh, I get it. I get what you're saying now. And you go, well, even though you taught me everything for free, I would love if you made a product that I could buy, because you're the only person I can trust. Like, you're the only person I can trust on this topic. And so I just think when it comes to the instructional game, when it comes to that part of the jiu-jitsu space, there's so much going on that we don't even perceive as the people making the products. And I think that, people are still figuring that part out. But I do think that there is a really good market for it. And there's some really helpful coaches that you've never even heard of that have good stuff. But it is still going to be about how do people cut through the noise. And, it's for me, like, hot takes on the podcast get more traction than anything else. And I'm like, it's crazy that hot takes will probably one day help me sell more instructionals than me teaching useful jujitsu advice. And so yeah, it's just, I guess it's the game that we're playing right now.
Yeah, I have a couple things to add to this, because I've been watching some videos on how to build a brand, and he talks about how you should have like two things that you stand for as your brand that you just like hammer home over and over again. So like if your audience asks, like, they can easily tell their friends about what you stand for. But he said almost more importantly is to have two things that you're against that tend to be different from like the perceived like belief amongst your community. And this is exactly what you're talking about, of having like I forget the term he used, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. And then the other thing you were talking about was like the perceived value of something and paying more for it. And Alex Hormozy talks about this.
Yeah, that's where I got it from, bro. We listen to the same people.
Cool. Yeah. But yeah, he talks about how like if everyone's pricing instructionals for $47 and then you price your instructional for $400, people are like, something different has to be going on there. And like, I am interested to know what it is, like it's not even in the ballpark of like any other related product, so yeah, I think it's like you said, it's a lot. There's a lot going on in the instructional space, but yeah.
Didn't you have another hot take on instructionals too?
I do, actually. And it's the like opposite, I thought, take on it. Instructionals and match study are essential to improve post blue belt.
Essential.
Strong word.
Like, strong word. Whew. Alexa, what's the definition of essential? Absolutely necessary or indispensable. Oof. I don't buy it. Alexa, that's enough. Chill. She wanted to tell me everything.
We got what we needed.
Yes, take it easy. She's still talking. No, stop.
She doesn't know what's essential.
Yeah, just share essential information. Oh.
I swear, she ain't gonna stop talking. But anyway, yeah, doesn't seem essential to me. My argument is you could. I'm guarantee you can find a guy that is a really really tough black belt that has done no analysis, no study, no instructional watching. Because I've known guys that do very 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 little and almost none, and so I'm sure that we have guys out there that just learn how to fight through fighting, and learn how to, they just get reps and get good. And you also go like, yeah, in Granite City, Illinois, I need to study matches and I need to, I don't have that same access to people, but like if you trained at Otto's headquarters, do you think you really need to have your finger on the pulse of what the meta is? Or do you think you can just show up and fight the dudes who are beating all of the best guys in the world? And like, this will give me enough information, you know? And so I don't think it's the same for everybody. I think it's a great tool, but I don't know. I don't know if essential is the word.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is a strong word. And I think for people in positions like myself, where it's like I have no one else to really bounce ideas off of,
Mhm.
I would consider it to be not essential is a very strong word, but like pretty darn close to it.
Mhm.
If I wanted to like improve. So it's
Oh,
hard for me. Sorry.
specifically for you, would you say that it is essential for you? Like, obviously, we can do the hypothetical if we drop somebody on an island as the only person doing jujitsu. Like, do you feel like without analysis, you wouldn't be able to get better? Or without,
It's
match
hard for
study?
me to envision me getting better without it right now. Like it's just such an integral part of my process that it's hard for me to envision me like try and progress without it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because Jake was literally kind of dropped on an island. Wait, you weren't the only person, right? There's one other person that's pretty high level on the island, right, Jake?
Well, the person who's helping me develop my website is pretty good now. So that's very helpful. I bounce ideas off him, and he wrestled all growing up. So
Mm.
um, yeah, so he's the only other I would say like person that's like helpful in the like um, bouncing ideas off of and seeing like, do you think this would actually work kind of things. But yeah, for the most part, it's a lot of me seeing someone do something in a match and trying it and seeing if I should implement it or not into my game. And usually the way I've done my process these days is I'll watch like an instructional to figure out some battle that is important. So it'd be like something I didn't even know existed. It would be like, oh, from the front headlock, you can put like, the foot up on this side or the foot up on this side when you're trying to escape. And it's like, I never really paid attention to what foot people were putting up when they were escaping from the front headlock. So then I'll go
Mm.
watch like 100 examples and be like, oh, people tend to do this foot and this type. I'll try and like piece it together and then I'll play with it myself and then be like, okay, it tends to make sense to do this in this situation and this in this situation. So that's basically my process. I don't like watch instructionals all the way through these days. It tends to be more like find a battle that interests me and then go see how people are winning that battle against live resistance.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Yeah, that is like, because when I first started training, not that there weren't instructionals. I mean, jujitsu originally was instructional. So that was like the Gracie in action tapes. That was the
right.
first jujitsu that you could buy. And we bought that. And it was very like, it was moves, it was an idea of what jujitsu was to get you started. And then like literally where we were at, this is before I ever actually quote unquote trained. I say I trained jujitsu for 17 years. I've had a coach for 17 years. I trained jujitsu probably 8 years before that too, where we were learning from instructionals. We bought mats and matted our garage, and we had people come over and we would fight in our garage like twice a week. And we did that for a long time. And the skill development was so slow, right? Like the ability to get better. I mean, I was like the equivalent at that point when I started jujitsu to like a 1 month white belt. And it was like with 8 years of training because we just didn't have any information. And I think that I would meet so many people that same thing during that time. Like they trained in their garage, they had no one else to train with. And they never seem to get better. But then those guys that one day said, you know what, I'm going to bet it all and I'm going to move to a place that has really big jujitsu. Those guys went from like the worst blue belts to some of the best purple and brown belts because they had the skill of learning without like learning on your own. And then they were put in an environment. It's like if you have somebody who's learned to hunt where there's not a lot of things to hunt, and then you put him in an environment where there's a lot of things to hunt, he is going to get to eat way more than somebody who's always grown up in that environment. And so that is that same thought process with information and with understanding with grappling is like you put a kid who's been just thirsty and hungry for info, and then you put him in a place that he can just get so much information, and it's like, oh, this is life changing for him, and he's so good in that environment. And so but to your point, like the thing that gets everybody better now, for at least in my eyes, is the fact that you can ask any question. You have a problem that night. Like if we had a problem in training, I would ask my coach. And if my coach didn't know, we would be spending weeks on, well, I don't know how you pass single leg X. I had never seen this until last week. And then we're like, well, there's no instructional, there's no YouTube video, nobody knows how to pass it. And you're forced to like in literally in those situations, like this is specific to single leg X. We had no good answers to pass single leg X's. Probably would have been 2013, 2014, super long ago when people start to originally play the position. Just a few people are playing it, but I would get stuck in it and be like, hey, Kyle, like my coach, what are we going to do about this? It's like, I don't know, dude. I don't know. What are we going to do about this? And he ended up bringing in Jonathan Satava for a seminar so we could specifically get a private lesson with him and ask him about single leg X. He taught a pass that I used for 5 or 6 years in like the first 30 seconds of the private. And it was like, now I would just search Jonathan Satava single leg X pass on YouTube and find it, or single leg X pass and get 1,000 examples of it. And so like that, to me, it's just, you can't even compare that the fact that you can have questions answered and then it's solved, and yeah, I just, I think it is possible to get good, but I just don't think it's possible to get good even close to the rate without some type of study. And I think everyone's study looks different without some type of study.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what are your thoughts on like teaching people how to hunt? Like, do you try and teach your students how to like take control of their own training and go find answers?
So I did for a while. I really tried to focus on like, can I do this? But the problem that they ran into is like, we would rather just have your answers. And so it changed for me. There was a shift to, I should focus more on getting you to this baseline that you can understand the language of other people. And then you can go find your own answers and you can do it organically without much thought. And so that's more of what I focus on, is like, I want to teach people my basic language. And it's not a lot of things, but then I want to really explain over and over and over again in a bunch of different ways what that language means, because you're going to see that language in different terms repeated everywhere in jiu-jitsu. And if you have a deep understanding of what my understanding is and what my terms are, when I talk about, a certain space and somebody says it differently, you'll be able to go, oh, my coach talks about that too. I know, one, that this agrees with how I view jiu-jitsu, and how I've been taught to view jiu-jitsu. But then on top of that, I can also go, oh, well, I can correlate their language to mine now. I can correlate this because I already have a little bit of an understanding. So my focus, like if I'm teaching somebody, and like I could even take a step back on that same question. Like if you're teaching somebody to hunt, when you get young kids that have been around jiu-jitsu for a long time, generally, if you ask them to explain a move, they're not very good at explaining it. They'll just be like, yeah, you just grab the head. And you'll be like, no, you did 10 things before that. You're like, yeah, I just don't, like, but I got to the head still. And you're like, yeah, but you don't, that's what I'm trying to find out. How do you get to the head? I just do it. I just gotten a lot of reps of doing it. But also they have intuitively learned how to do that, right? They've intuitively learned some patterns that get the result that they want a lot of the time. And then you have a guy with that level of intuition, and then you let him get better reps with better people that can then stop afterwards and say, hey, don't do that, do this. And that is this totally huge game changing thing for that kid. Even though he doesn't have even a good understanding of language, he just understands he can get better at jujitsu as an individual. And for most kids, it's just real live, right? You just get a bunch of reps and you start to get good. You don't have any problem with recovery because you're a kid. And so that can be the method for that kid for a period of time. But I was that kid, and that can't be the method for me anymore. I can't keep up with that anymore. And so it went from like I can train 10 to 12 times per week to I can train 3 times per week, and without hurting myself, without you know what I mean, without taking any risk to my body. And so I had to. I mean, I didn't have to, but I want to keep getting good. I want to get better faster than I was then. And so that thought process of like, well, you've got to redefine how you learn, you know, specifically like, you know, for you, you're like, you have a specific formula now that you have for learning jujitsu. And as you get better at that, what you'll find is you'll go, I wonder if I just took this little piece and tweaked it. Wonder if I took this little piece of the process and tweaked it. And ideally, you do that enough and you look back 10 years and you go, oh, the process is totally different now, right? But it's just been subtly tweaked, but it's also been subtly tweaked just for you specifically. And so that is like when you're learning just to learn jujitsu, the best thing that you can do is just listen to your coach until you understand what he's saying, until things sound repetitive, because that means you're starting to hear the language. Then you can go other places and apply that understanding that you have, that base knowledge that you have, to actually start to get better at jujitsu.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. The thing you were talking about of being like intuitively, you know, getting to the head. Mm-hmm. It reminds me of this conversation I have with my little cousin. He's in middle school and he's wrestling, and he's actually like quite good at wrestling. And I spent some time with him like over Thanksgiving, and I asked him what his favorite takedown was. And I was like, he said a high crotch. And then I said, how do you like to set up the high crotch? And he just looked at me like I was crazy.
Yeah.
And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, I mean, do you like grip fight? Do you like shoot from distance? Like, what do you like to do? And he was like, I just grab their leg. And I was like, cool.
He's like, you don't understand. You don't understand what a high crotch is. You just pick up pick up their leg. Like,
exactly.
Yeah. That is the beautiful thing about the intellectuals of jujitsu is there's always some moron who's going to beat you down. He knows nothing of anything. He just, you know, like usually they pull him right out of the favela for me and they just thrash me. Just have absolutely. And then I'll be like, man, I bet in Portuguese this guy's really smart. And all the guys are like, no, he's stupid in Portuguese too, dude. He's just good at this. He can just fight, you know? And so, yeah, there's just some people can see on a different plane with jiu-jitsu, you know?
For sure. I'm not one of those people.
Yeah, I like to believe in my heart sometimes I am, but I don't think so. I don't think so. I think I had a good one. Ooh. I don't know. I don't even know if this is the popular culture. This is just like, I mean, people are doing no-gi now. I don't even know if this is a thing anymore. But someone said lower belts need to move for upper belts. Is this still a thing in jiu-jitsu? Are people still, Josh, you're 3 years in. Do you have to move for an
like
upper
if you're
belt?
in bottom. Oh, I see. Like get out of my way.
You guys don't even know what I'm talking about.
You mean if they're like rolling and they're getting into our space, I got to stop my roll. Yeah. No, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, no.
This is American jiu-jitsu.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't happen for me either. I'm saying though, I'm shocked that I expected you guys to be like, oh yeah, that's still a really common thing.
No, I've been at some gyms where they give you that look and oh shoot, okay, they expect me to move, and we're gonna move. But most of the time, I would say 99% of the time where I'm training,
we had one like little incident here where there was a black belt that used to train here, and he got mad at someone because it was like 2 new people were rolling, and they like got close to him, and he kind of like scolded him of like, get away from me.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is what you're referring to, and
Yeah.
we don't do that.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, dude. My rule on that has always been, if you can see someone's feet next to you,
Exactly,
then
yeah.
you should move, because they can't see you and they will kick your head. Their legs won't hurt. Like that will only hurt your head. And so that has always, and literally, like my first gym, it was so tight. We probably had like at most 700 square feet of mat, and we would get 30, 40
Dang.
people rolling live. And it would just, people would be falling off the mat, rolling on the carpet. It would just be the Wild West. And so that's where the rule was gone. We were like, how would you move for an upper belt? We're all rolling side by side with each other. And so the rule of just don't get concussed. So just, if you see like, oh, your partner's lined up to get kicked, you can't move, because if you move one way, you're going to run into somebody else. So you just spin him, so his legs get kicked and everyone's fine. Everyone's healthy.
Right.
And that was, and then we moved to a bigger place. And so that was much easier. But
at the small place, did everyone just play half guard?
dude, they didn't care. They just freaking fought to the death. There are old videos of like the Cicero Costa gym with like Leandro Lowe and the Meows training. And you're like, oh, those guys train together. It must be like just those guys. And then you see, and they were like 100 Brazilians deep in a little bitty shed. It's just absolutely soaked. Everyone's bumping into each other. Nobody cares, like, just how it was, I guess. And so, yeah, I guess that was, I guess I'm glad that is no longer a thing, the move for upper belts. But I just didn't know that it was going to be, I didn't know you guys were going to be like, what is he even talking about? Did he make that up? That was shocking.
This stops with AJJ.
That's what I'm saying, dude. That's what I'm saying. So I have basically the hottest take ever. Yeah. Did we want that or did we not want that?
Let's do it.
It's pretty hot. It's pretty hot. And again, it's pretty spicy. This isn't me. I didn't say this. Okay. This is going to come out of my mouth, but I'm reading something that someone else wrote and commented on Instagram. Women's only classes are dumb. Train with the guys. No guys are hitting on you. You are ugly.
Dang. That's the hottest take so far.
That's the hottest take. That could be one of the hottest ones of the year that I feel comfortable using on the podcast. And I don't feel it's your podcast that I feel comfortable using it on. I wouldn't use it on mine. But yeah, that's a hot take. It's very interesting. So we're starting a women's program at our gym. We have just a free class right now. And I share all this stuff on my personal Instagram too. So I was sharing these crazy takes. And one of my women's coaches made a video, and it was something of like, since there are so many soft men threatened by women training, you should, I just really dug into the other side of it. And I responded, I was like, yeah, this is the energy. This is what I'm saying. Like, this is what I'm trying to say is you should be actively fighting against the dude that commented this as part of your marketing. It should just be like girls should be excited to come train jiu-jitsu just to make guys like that upset, and that is like, that's the sale, like you think the best way to sell a girl something? Hey, your husband doesn't want you to buy this. He doesn't want you to have, he doesn't want you to have this. You tell my wife that, and she's like, yeah, I'll buy one for him. Like, perfect. And so, I think that you lean into it a little bit. You lean into the aggressive male hating women. And then that's your characters, things that you're against, exactly. Like you said. That's
the drilling doesn't work marketing strategy.
Exactly. The drilling doesn't work. I love it. We'll get Greg to talk about men and women next time,
Spice things up a bit. Um, this doesn't really have anything to do with the hot take. I mean, maybe it does. But I was listening to Jocko Willing's podcast where he interviewed his daughter, Raina,
Mhm,
and Raina was talking about how when she first went to jujitsu when she was older in college, she did jujitsu a bit growing up. She got out of it and then she started back in college. And she was talking about, she called Jocko and she was crying. She was like, all the guys are like super mean. No one wants to be my partner, blah, 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 blah. And then he was like, well, one, like jujitsu people, like new people come in and out all the time. So like they don't necessarily want to invest much time in you if you're not going to show up
mhm,
next week. So they want to make sure you're committed before they start to like invest some time into you. And two, did you like ask them, were you being friendly or were you just sitting in the corner? You know? And she was
mhm,
like, oh, I was just kind of sitting in the corner. And then Jocko said like most like normal guys don't want to be looked at as creepy by like
mhm,
walking up to the girl and being like, hey, do you want to drill? You know, like
mhm.
they kind of wait for the girl to be like, initiate the conversation so it doesn't come off as creepy. So, again, I don't think it has anything to do with the hot take, but I just thought this was like an interesting perspective to share of like a woman going to a jujitsu class on how to kind of like navigate it a bit.
And yeah, that's an interesting just topic in general, and that is the like, there is a really aggressive group that thinks that, like, all men and women should train together all the time, and, like, it's bad if you have women's only classes, and it's a really weird take. It's like a really because I think that you have those classes for there are a lot of girls, whether because of just things that have happened to them in their life or whatever, that there's no way that they would ever feel comfortable walking into a mixed jujitsu class. But not only that, but even if they started at a women's only class and the only conversation was like, but if you don't go to the mixed classes, you're not really doing jujitsu. It's like, why would she, if she knows going in, like, well, they're going to make me do this thing that I'm never going to feel comfortable doing.
Mhm.
And so, to me, I just think that the mindset, and this isn't just gender specific, this is just in general. And this is why I'm doing AJJ now. Is the mindset on jujitsu is that it needs to be this one thing, but it's growing so rapidly. Not only is that stupid, it would be like all restaurants are one thing. You can have a restaurant and it has to serve this type of food. And it's like, no, there's all kinds of consumers that have all kinds of different preferences. And so I think that jujitsu, as it grows, is going to start to get really niched down into specific types of jujitsu, specific types of groups of people that want to train jujitsu. There will be people that crack the code of like, how do I truly only have a school of really high level professionals? Where can I put my school? How do I do that to be able to charge a really premium price for those high level professionals? And you will also have people that are like, you will have female black belts that take the risk of, I'm going to run a female only school. And that is going to be the only customer that we serve. And if you're not a girl, we don't care. Most schools are focused on guys. And so the idea, though, it's like when you start a school, everyone has the intention of like, okay, I'm going to run a jujitsu school and I'm going to have really high level athletes. And that's what I'm going to do. And then they're like, man, I'm not making any money with that. I'm going to have kids classes. And then they're like, oh, I make a little money. I'll have teen classes too. Oh, there's a little more money. Well, maybe I could do a women's class. And then they start to spread so much out that they have 5 people in 20 different programs. And it's like, man, that's not very, you should probably just focus on serving one type of person because it's very hard to be able to serve, I mean, even 2 types of people. And so like, how good could your quality be if you're trying to serve everybody with your jujitsu? And how good can your jujitsu be if it's not specific at all? If it's not specific to, are the self-defense guys and the police officers getting the same thing as the high-level competitors in the room when you're doing it that way? It's like, no, that's not they have different goals. They're completely different communities. And it just, to me, the idea of that separation is going to help people's brands so much because there's just going to be so many more people to train.
Yeah. the Girth Squad AJJ brand is gonna be perfect.
That's what I'm saying, bro. That's what I'm telling you. You know, you guys get it. You guys get it.
Man, I wish, like, I thought I had some good hot takes, but I have no kids involved. I have no women involved. I feel like that's when it gets, like, really
Bro,
spicy.
you gotta go women and children and TRT.
Yeah.
Those 3 things, I did not realize the intensity from the TRT community that there was. Like, I should have, but I didn't. I did all TRT hot takes last week.
Mhm.
And one, like, people didn't like that. I didn't get, like, there were a few, like, skinny dudes and women that thought the episode was funny. But, like, every guy with a six-pack that I know didn't think it was funny for some reason. I don't, you know, I don't know. I didn't know what that they didn't find the same humor that I found in it. Yeah, it didn't hit my audience as well, you know? It didn't hit my broy audience as well as is normal. I don't know. What are you gonna do?
I got a hot take for you. Josh getting on TRT would break my heart.
Ooh. It would break mine too, Jake. It would. You know, I don't want to say I won't do it because, like I said, I'll tell people if I did do it, I will tell them on the podcast. But most likely, not only will I not do it, but I'll start to aggressively lean against it and really, really dog people for being on it. Really try to get some super fights, just like really TRT'd up dudes, talk trash on them, the whole shebang, you know? But yeah, I don't think it really, in all honesty, the steroid thing really didn't tempt me for real ever. It just never really, it never seemed worth it to me. And so, yeah, I just, oh, not the TRT is steroids. I know that someone's in the comments like, no, it's different. I'm a doctor. Trust me, it's different. Like, all right, bro, I know it's different, and you're at your therapeutic dose. And it is very normal for you at 45 to be shredded for the first time in your life. I get it. I know. I'm not trying to offend you. But for me, I think that especially I know a lot of guys that start in their 30s now. Most guys are starting in their 30s now. And of course, they have amazing results in the beginning, but there is a level off that happens at about like the 17 to 34 month mark, depending on who it is. And you see that happen. And then they have to change up what they're on. And then they have to add. And then we have to do estrogen blockers now. And then we have to do, and it just keeps going. And there is this whole thing of like, okay, I know that the claim is like, oh no, there's no side effects to this. There are no long-term side effects. But listen, we are in the case study right now. There are more people doing it than ever, and they're going to be doing it for much longer than 20 years. You know, they're going to be doing it for 40, 50 years if they live that long doing it. And so maybe I'm wrong at the end of this case study. You know, maybe I'm 80 and I'm like, they're all still alive too. I should just be on the juice, bro. I should get shredded now. But I just doubt that it's something that I regret too much. Was that your hot take, Jake? Was it you whose heart would be broken? I figured it would be.
I wrote that one. I was listening to your TRT hot takes one, and you were talking about how like no one said that they would be heartbroken if you got on it. Like everyone was kind of hoping you would get on it.
Yeah, I'm glad somebody stayed true. I'm glad somebody cares.
I have a jiu-jitsu one that maybe we can end on. That's not too much of a hot take. I saw it from Jake's, and it says the back control game has completely changed in 2025. I am curious because we have a decade of experience and 17 years. Just selfishly, I'm curious about your guys' thoughts on the evolution of back control. Josh, maybe you can go first.
Me first?
Yeah.
I would say, okay, so I would say a few things about it. Yes, I totally agree that it has evolved in 2025, but I would argue it's because the entire game is evolving. You are noticing I mean, even if you compare it to 2017, even if you compare it to, like kind of that time, the understanding of the value of top for a whole match is starting to be understood. And I remember in that time early on, not comprehending that in losing matches where I'm doing 10-minute rounds against guys where I'm beating them for 7 minutes. I'm very close to a lot of good submissions. And then like I start to fade towards the end. And I'm like, why is this happening? Why are they getting their passes so late in these matches? And I started to recognize like, oh, I am carrying this dude for 7 minutes of a match. Then you start to, with that mindset, I think that mindset is generally, you hear people talk about pressure all the time. You hear two people talk about fighting for top. You see people who have always just pulled guard, want to wrestle and want to play top a lot more now. And that's starting to kind of, I think, be the generalized thought is like, there is this long-term value to top that is not a single move. It's not like, oh, just do this move and it'll work. But the jiu-jitsu point system has always favored, well, you're in mount, take the back. How many times do you fall off for the back, you lose a hook, you end up not only no longer in dominant position, but on bottom? And so really the reason that generally happens is because you voluntarily went from top to bottom because you didn't want your ankle to get trapped or you didn't want to lose that space. And so I think that even when you see the control of the back, the thought process has changed so much that guys even look like they're always on top. Even when they're on their side in the back, the guy's head is always on top. There is always weight being applied and there's always weight to the floor on the guy whose back is being taken. It's like the first defense generally to getting your back escaping the back is getting your butt off the floor, right? You start to get your butt and start to pin it on the leg that you're on, and then you can beat that bottom leg. And so the idea I would say is there is definitely a development from the back, but I would argue that there's more of a development in general in jiu-jitsu that is like, and really, it's an old school thought, the idea of pressure and the idea of keeping your weight on somebody, but there is so much new school application happening. And it's like, what's the best way to not get leg locked? Is to not be there, is to not get knocked down, is to be on top of the guy and not let him leg lock you then. It's like he has a lot of layers that he has to generally break down in order to hit that. And so guys are starting to see that value for top. And then obviously as ADCC grows, that favors top too. That rule set favors top. But I just think that there is a general new thought towards jiu-jitsu that you're seeing more for competition, especially. And it is that a match is not just a bunch of little 1-second clips. It's a whole match, and you're seeing guys playing whole matches better and differently, even against guys who on paper are better at jiu-jitsu than them, and they're able to win by just exploiting the value of top. And I think we're seeing that more from the back, and I think we're seeing less people being willing to pull someone completely on top of them just for 4 points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't agree. I thought that was, honestly, it's perfect because like I was going to make a short after this about like, and I'm just going to use this clip as part of it, to be honest. So,
all right.
I've been kind of pushing the idea a lot these days of, I got it from Joseph, where like back in the day, it was like, you want to have your bottom hook from the back. Like if you could choose, you'd want your bottom hook, but that's your leg that you would need to heist up to top. So it might make more sense if you're prioritizing top position to have a long top hook instead of like prioritizing your bottom hook. So that way, if it fails, you can get on top. And like if you're attacking from mount and you have an underhook, you're trying to ratchet their arm up or whatever, they're going to exploit your underhook control by probably bridging towards that underhook. And then you try and chase the back and then you fall off and you end up on bottom. But like what I saw DeAndre do this in his rolling, it's becoming, I think, more common to like when you feel like there's rotation that you can't manage, just completely disengage your legs and use your legs as base. So like when it fails, you end up on top still. And a lot of times they end up taking the back anyway. It's like you're taking a safer route, but you end up with the same end result anyway. And like a pretty common example I thought of this was like Chris Wojcik in his recent match against Oliver Taza would pass to side control a lot, and Taza would start to turn into him. And obviously there's back exposure. But instead of chasing the back, Chris would just step like over the legs and basically accept the fact that Taza was going to trap his ankle and they're end up in like 3/4 mount. But he's like, I'm not chasing the back to sacrifice top position. Like kind of like you said, it's just like a mindset shift of like top is very valuable and we're going to control the back in a way where if it fails, I'm getting on top. We're going to chase the back in a way where if it fails, I'm getting on top. And we're not going to take these big risks anymore to pull someone on top of us. And I think you answered it, I think, very well. I just kind of piggybacked off your answer.
But to that same exact point, you're right, is like the that disconnect that you're talking about from mount that people do. Like, oh, I feel that bridge. So many people want to keep the connection because it's positive for them. And they're like, oh, well, I have almost a head and arm choke. This is a good connection for me. But the truth is, that's not how jiu-jitsu works. Connection is connection. If it can be used for you, it can probably be used against you. And if I start to bridge really hard and you say, well, I'm going to prioritize that connection, so you start to try to follow it, you lost the fact that I was stuck underneath you, you know? And so that thought of like, I want to just keep, like the simplest way to explain is like, if there's one light over your head, I want my opponent, ideally their face and chest, to be under my shadow. And that's where I want them to stay. No matter if they have X, K, any, whatever, it's constant. Because when that happens, anytime their hands and their feet get out of between their chest and face, like they stop protecting their chest and face, I am falling on their chest and face. And then what do their hands and feet do? They go back to engage, they go back to protect. And so that idea, like in that perfect example with Chris, if Chris does not trap the legs, like maybe like is it dope mount or like knee ride, leg ride, whatever it is that you're talking about, like he went back over from side control to hook the legs, even though it's not mount, it's kind of like you said, he's getting caught in quarter mount on it.
Yeah, exactly. It was more like, I know you're going to catch me in guard, but I'm just jumping back on top. It's kind of like if you like lazily step over into mount and they do an elbow escape on the trail side.
Yes.
It was basically like that. Chris was like, I know this is going to happen. You're going to trap my leg in, quarter mount. But I don't care. Like I'm making sure I'm ending up on top,
And you also go, it's a tax thing, is like Chris is paying a way lower tax in that position than Taza is. Taza has to pay the tax of moving both of their weight, and he's flat, right? And so when you see that, like you also, the other idea is, I always think of top like this, and this is really helpful for people with this mindset, is I want 100% of me on top of you. Meaning, if you have one leg trapped under your body, that is not good for me. That is not 100% of me on top of you. It's better for me to throw that leg over so I can just cover more of you. Because then, even though you can move and wiggle and do whatever, you're doing it all with me on top of you. And so, yeah, I think that is totally the way. And like, obviously, Chris is known for being a leg lock guy. He isn't. Chris always had a really good top game. If you watch his first ADCC run, I think he beat Keith Krikorian playing top the entire time.
He beat Kieran Kachuk too.
Oh, I think that was all those K names. They're all the same. Yeah. And so, they all leg lock and stuff too, dude. They all play like K guard, like it's just, I just think though, it's even with a guy like him, he's getting so many reps, like Chris, so many reps against really good guys, getting so many reps training really good guys. You start to go, well, what is the most consistent way to win? The most consistent way to win is to minimize everything that my opponent does and wear them out and then submit them when they're tired. The best way to do that is to crowd them on top.
Yep. 100%. Yeah. And like, Tiger Woods talks about this in golf too. My wife's a golf professional, so I tend to watch a decent amount of golf content. But Tiger Woods talks about how like when he was like at his peak, he maybe hit like one shot a tournament that he was like, oh, that was like perfect. He was like, I don't hit. He was like, basically like, I don't hit that many perfect shots. I just pick a very conservative line and I play to it super aggressively. I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. The worst case scenario, even if I mess it up, it's not going to be like that bad. And I'm just going to do that over and over and over again. And that's how you get consistent victories.
Yep.
And it's, prioritizing top in jiu-jitsu is basically that.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Couldn't think of a better way to end it. Yeah. A lot of hot takes we covered today. Anything else that you wanted to talk about, Josh, that we missed?
Absolutely not. I thought it was great.
Awesome.
I love these episodes when you do them, so I'm glad we got to do one.
Yeah, I've never done them in any other setting other than me just doing it. So I'm supposed to do my first ever, I think it's like in January, my first ever in-person, it'd be at a tournament and they gave me a booth. And so I'm going to have people just coming up and giving me hot takes.
Nice.
And so I could get some crazy hot takes. And the worst thing is like, it's all live. So what if I don't react well? Like, what if I like agree with it? And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Oh no, I'm not supposed to say that. I'm not supposed to have that opinion. Oh no. Yeah, that could be dangerous, but I'm glad I got a little practice outside of it.
Yeah, you're walking a fine line there. Maybe for your next episodes of hot takes, where you do a gender one, you do a money one, you do a kids one, just prepare for this. You have a hot takes camp leading up to the live event.
That makes sense. I could just really dig in. Yeah, you're right. I should do a politics hot takes. You're right. Genius.
Awesome, Josh. Thanks so much for coming on today. And everybody check out the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. We'll link it in the description. And I'm sure we're going to clip the shit out of this episode. But no, we'll try not to get anything too egregious out there. But thanks so much for coming on.
I just want to say we had so many hot takes. So like if you didn't get your hot take, like, said by us, we apologize. But yeah, there were a ton. So we got through as many as we could. And we've been on here an hour and a half-ish. So yeah.
I think we did a solid amount of hot takes. I think if we ever did it again, we would get 1,000 more hot takes. I think that they would go. When people grasp like, oh, that's what they want. Like that's like for me, it's like my listeners have been trained. Is like, what would be just offensive enough that Josh would actually say? Like just offensive enough.
That's awesome. Cool. Thanks, Josh. We'll catch you next time.